Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today our mission is to take a stack of what seems like totally disparate source material.
Oh, completely. We've got evolutionary biology, some really radical business philosophy, even 17th century relationship advice.
And we're going to try and pull out the single unifying strategy for long-term success that runs through all of them.
And that strategy, which, it just keeps appearing in all these successful systems, is really twofold.
Okay.
First, you have to make a massive, often incredibly high-stakes investment. And second, that investment has to lead to you learning how to effectively escape competition entirely.
The parallels are so strong that they'll genuinely surprise you. Our sources show that whether you're a startup trying to build a moat or a couple trying to build a lasting bond, the strategy is fundamentally the same. We're going to start with the highest stakes investment strategy of all, one that's embedded in our DNA over millions of years, creating and raising a human being.
It's the perfect place to begin, really, because our whole biological strategy sets the joint line for every competitive or economic drive that comes later.
Right.
We talk a lot about the effort of raising kids, but the deep evolutionary context, well, it shows this extreme investment is the necessary model for any high-stakes, high-reward system.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why is human childhood so ridiculously long and expensive and just so demanding compared to our primate relatives?
Yeah.
What's the evolutionary logic there?
Well, it all comes down to specialization. Our reproductive physiology is just specialized for one thing, producing high-quality, large-brained offspring.
And that brain growth is the real cost.
It's metabolically ruinous. We're talking rapid, extensive growth, especially in those first 5 years. To support that, human fetal growth is, it's just way more rapid than what we see in gorillas or chimpanzees.
And the body knows this is coming, so it starts stockpiling resources immediately.
Precisely. Both the mother and the developing offspring store an exceptional amount of fat. And this isn't for insulation. It is the critical energy needed to fuel years of brain development. It's like an advance payment into a development bank.
But because the cost is so steep, the system also has a pretty ruthless biological hedge built in.
It does, yeah. If the investment looks like it's going to fail, nature cuts its losses early.
So if the offspring seems to be of poor genetic quality or just isn't viable,
the system is geared toward a rapid termination of that investment. It's a harsh, a deep-seated biological cost-benefit analysis. The resources saved are then redirected to a future, hopefully more promising.
That brings us to the comparative cost versus payoff, which is where the real story is.
Absolutely.
So if we quantify that expense, let's look at chimpanzees. They're independent. They're producing as much food as they consume by about age 5.
Right. But now contrast that with humans. We consume way more than we produce. We're a net drain on resources for, 15 to 22 years.
A huge prolonged liability. So why take that on? The chimp strategy seems so much safer. Produce them fast, get them independent quickly.
Because the payoff is exponential. But, and this is the key, it requires a very long runway. That extreme investment in growth and learning and skill acquisition is only beneficial if natural selection also favors investments in staying alive longer.
You have to have longevity and low mortality rates.
You have to stay alive long enough to reap the rewards.
And what are those rewards exactly?
The sources show the peak net production for adult humans, which happens much later, around ages 35 to 45, is about 5 times the chimpanzee peak.
5 times.
That massive multiplier, that 5x economic payoff, is what justifies the 20 years of initial expense. It's a high-risk, deferred gratification strategy.
Which means you need a stable social structure to guarantee that initial investment can even happen.
It forces sociality, yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that individual investment strategy scales up and actually shapes our social structures. The sources talk about how, roughly 6,000 years ago, stratified civilizations started to arise.
Right, as people settled on productive resource patches.
Exactly. And the control of that wealth became everything. That concentration of wealth led directly to social despots men who used coercive political power to defend their wealth and, critically, their own reproductive success.
So state-level stratification is really an emergent outcome of individuals just trying to optimize their own high-stakes strategies.
It is. And the impact of that echoes today in how families sort of calculate the returns on investment in their own kids.
Yeah.
There's some specific historical research on this.
The Crumhorn case.
That's the one. It documented the behavior of high-status families in Northern Europe, and it showed that parental investment, how much time, money, education, was explicitly calculated based on cost benefit.
So they would invest heavily in the children, most likely to succeed and carry on the family wealth.
And sometimes marginalize the others. It was a cold calculation, which makes the modern context where public institutions can change that math for everyone so compelling.
Right, because public investment changes the game.
Completely. Increased public investments in health and schooling, they just decrease mortality rates across the board. So if a child is more likely to survive, it dramatically increases the efficiency of the private investment in that child's education for people at all economic levels. The state secures the payoff for the long-term biological strategy.
That jump from biological investment to societal investment is the perfect bridge to business strategy. We're moving from biological survival to corporate survival.
And this is where we get into Peter Thiel.
Exactly. His mantra is famously, competition is for losers.
It's such a contrarian view. He argues that if you follow traditional economic theory, perfect competition just drives all companies toward zero economic profit in the long run.
So if you're competing fiercely, you're probably just doing conventional things.
And even if you win, the prize is so depleted by the fight it was barely worth it. So the goal isn't to be slightly better than the next guy.
The goal is to create a business so unique it has no next level.
Category of one. He defines a monopoly not in the legal bad sense, but as the condition of every truly successful business.
Because they solved a unique problem.
Think about Google's PageRank, or the network effects that make Uber so hard to displace, or Apple's brand loyalty. They all made a massive early investment in solving something unique.
And crucially, these good monopolies are what drive progress. Why is that?
Because the promise of sustained profits lets you do long-term planning. It lets you fund ambitious research, that decades-long high-stakes investment we saw in biology.
Whereas companies locked in competition can't afford that.
They can't. They're too busy fighting over margins. Monopolies are the only ones who can afford to think decades ahead.
But the truly clever ones are masters of disguise. They don't want to look like they've escaped.
Absolutely not. They play the political game. A non-monopolist defines their market narrowly. We're the best pizzeria in this neighborhood.
Right, to claim dominance.
A monopolist does the opposite. To avoid antitrust, they define their market incredibly broadly to look small and competitive.
The Google example is just perfect for this.
It is. If they said they monopolized the $17 billion U.S. search engine ad market, they'd look dominant. Instead, they define their market as the entire $495 billion global advertising market.
So from that perspective,
They can honestly say they own just over 3% of it. They look like a tiny player in a competitive field when really they've already escaped competition in their core business.
that takes a visionary founder, right? Someone who is not afraid to build a future, not just improve the present.
You need someone who thinks in terms of 0 to 1, not 1 to n. The audacity to ask, what kind of future do we want to build? And how can we be the exclusive provider of that future?
And we can take this exact strategy, moving from competitive positioning to creating incomparable value, and apply it directly to relationships.
Yes, and trying to use a business tool like a SWOT analysis on your partner, for example, it fails catastrophically.
Because you're using it for competitive positioning, measuring them against alternatives.
It fails because competition is zero-sum. A long-term relationship has to be positive-sum. The shift is to exit the competitive game entirely. The goal starts being, I need to be better than others. And it becomes, I need to be incomparable to anyone else for this specific person.
Which is the relationship equivalent of building a monopoly. How do you do that?
By building what the sources call relationship-specific capital. This is the massive, non-transferable investment that only exists inside that partnership.
The inside jokes, shared memories.
Mutual vulnerabilities, the trust, all the stuff that has zero value to a third party. You're creating value that only exists between the two of you, which makes external comparisons irrelevant.
You exit the game.
You build a new universe. And that brings us to how our internal motivations shape the success of those intimate investments. There's a really clear line between approach goals and avoidance goals.
Okay, let's break down that psychological distinction.
So approach goals mean you're doing something, in this case sex, to get a positive outcome. Enhanced intimacy, connection, pleasure.
And avoidance goals.
That's doing the same thing to avoid a negative outcome, to prevent your partner's disappointment or to avoid a fight.
And the intention there matters a lot.
It's crucial. The research consistently shows approach goals lead to higher sexual desire and relationship satisfaction. Avoidance goals, well, They lead to lower desire and lower satisfaction. The motivation defines the quality.
And there was an experimental study on this, right?
Yes, researchers took couples and they actually manipulated their focus towards the result was immediate. People reported more satisfying sexual experiences, higher desire, and a bump in overall relationship satisfaction.
So the internal strategy you adopt, seeking the positive versus avoiding the negative, that's the differentiator.
It is.
And we can see this focus on the psychological quality of a relationship reflected centuries ago. I'm thinking of Ninon de l'Enclos, the 17th century French courtesan.
She was revolutionary. She criticized the restrictive, competitive gender roles of her time and argued that the fundamental psychological qualities of men and women, they don't really differ.
So she argued that for love and for pleasure to really succeed, men had to raise their investment. They had to move beyond the conventional game.
Exactly. She insisted men must treat women with genuine intellectual respect. For her, that mutual respect was the essential, high-quality investment needed to create a relationship that yields maximum pleasure.
This historical view really contrasts with the traditional Western idea of marriage, where romantic love is the prerequisite.
It does. If we look at the Hindu philosophy of love, it flips that completely.
So in the West, romantic love justifies the investment of marriage.
Whereas Hinduism often professes that the real collaborative love, it begins after the marriage. The arranged marriage is explicitly designed as a long-term investment vehicle.
It's a structure designed to grow love.
Yes, through collaborative life struggle and shared experience. Institutionalizes the investment first, betting on the high payoff of relationship-specific capital built over decades.
And this brings us full circle. There was that fascinating study from rural Nepal connecting emotional bonds to long-term planning.
It's a beautiful piece of data. It found a strong, statistically significant positive link between the strength of a couple's emotional bond, their love, and their rate of using contraception.
What was the magnitude of that effect?
For each 1-point increase in the emotional bond strength, the odds of the couple using contraception went up by about 22%.
So a deeper emotional investment creates the framework for collaborative, long-term economic strategy.
They moved from an unthinking biological strategy to a deeply considered one.
That really does bring our discussion full circle. Whether we're evolving a species, building a tech company, or nurturing a relationship, success depends on that massive initial investment and then the ability to create unique value that makes competition irrelevant.
You either escape the competition or you die in the fight. And it reinforces how our institutional structures, from ancient despotism to modern public health, all emerge from and then influence these individual strategies for success.
The biological drive for a massive payoff shapes the world we build.
It does.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We know Peter Thiel argues that monopoly drives true innovation because intense competition just results in too many people doing conventional things.
And if true innovation requires escaping that competitive rat race, we really have to consider the state of the modern academic and scientific world. Sociological analysis shows that academics today, well, they have weak support for the classical Mertonian norm of disinterestedness.
Which was the ideal that scientists pursued truth, regardless of personal gain or prestige. What's replacing it?
What sociologists call interestedness. Seeking a public profile, fame, funding. It's all about playing a public game of recognition.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with. If the competitive landscape of modern research, the need for high impact factors, the focus on fast, fundable results, is what guides scientific output, does that structure itself prevent the revolutionary breakthrough? Is the intense competition in science making science too conventional, keeping us locked in the one-to-n improvement game instead of seeking that true 0-to-1 progress? That's a strategic paradox worth exploring.